Hey there, I'm Tom Martin. I'm the CEO and founder of LawDroid, and I'm really happy to be here. Um, there's a lot to talk about with AI. There's a lot of change, as you may have seen. It almost changes on a daily, if not hourly basis. And I'm really hoping that my presentation today can bring you up to speed on the most recent developments and give you an eye into the right mindset to approach AI. I do come to this as a lawyer with just over 25 years experience and having launched LawDroid 8 years ago before AI was cool. So I do have a lot of perspective to bring to bear, and I hope you enjoy it. Hey, everybody. Today we're going to talk about the real deal on generative AI for lawyers. I know that you've probably seen a lot of presentations about AI, and some of them are not giving you the real insight as to what's going on. And I want to show you that and share that with you because there's been a lot of hype and there's been a lot of overselling possibly, and I just want to get to the heart of the matter. So I'm Tom, and I'm going to get into this. We're going to talk about these things on the agenda. The first one is going to be the temperature. We're going to take a temperature check of where everyone's at because I am realistic about the hype, but then we're going to get into the mindset, which is the right mindset that you should have for approaching AI, talk about use cases, then general purpose AI, after that, legal specific AI, talk about the evolution of AI. It hasn't even been 2 years yet that ChatGPT dropped in November 2022, but we're getting there quick. And then finally, we're going to talk about ethics. So temperature. We see facts like this pretty often in what we hear from the news. You know, that so many legal professionals see the potential in generative AI, that so many legal professionals have concerns about AI at work. And we know that this has been in the air, but people have pulled back a little bit in terms of their excitement about AI. I'm only being realistic in acknowledging that we're kind of in the trough of disillusionment right now. People have been very excited about AI, and I, of course, as a founder of a legal AI company, am still extremely excited about AI. But I think people have had some concerns about, hallucinations and some ethical concerns, which I think there's definite answers for that we'll talk about later. But it's led to people being a little more careful in terms of making investments or choosing to work with AI. And so I hope that as we go through this, you'll reach more of the slope of enlightenment rather than the trough of disillusionment, and we'll move forward. Now, this one I put in here because I get this from a lot of lawyers. They feel that their law degrees, the years of education that they put under their belt, um, has been supplanted by ChatGPT. And, that's one way to look at it, is that it's a competitor, that it's going to take my job, that it's going to, have this kind of scary effect on my career. And I'm probably not helping out by this quote where I do point out the truth that lawyers, we don't anymore have the luxury of kind of taking a wait and see attitude about AI. There's no magic snooze button that we can hit to stop it because this time it's like a train and it's going down the tracks and we just need to find a way to work with it. My friend Kat Moon has a similar take, but she also wanted to point out, as she says here, that although it may be that lawyers who take advantage of AI are going to replace lawyers that don't use AI, what's even more important than that is what's always been important, is using empathy and curiosity to collaborate with each other and to provide excellent services because fundamentally, being a lawyer is a one-to-one human relationship. So I had mentioned mindset and that having a proper mindset is important. Let's get into that. How many of you fall into the camp of the one on the left? I knew it couldn't do it when they're playing around with AI. They kind of push it to the limit or they try to trick it into giving a wrong answer or they see it hallucinate and they're really smug. I knew it couldn't do that. But on the other hand, a different attitude you could have about AI is curiosity and openness to everything that could help you to accomplish, right? To have a positive, open mindset. And the thing is that what you have in mind, that kind of the negative versus the positive mindset really influences your experience using AI. Another way that I think is not a proper approach, it's not a healthy way of using AI, is to think of it as an oracle, or that it is providing us facts and from on high that are perfect, and that we don't have to check anything because it should get everything right the first time perfectly. Now, it's this type of mindset, the mindset of seeing AI as an oracle, as magic, that led to the Schwartz case. And the Schwartz case is the one in the US that led to the faulty fake citations that they filed in federal court and got in trouble with the judge. Because they thought of ChatGPT as being an oracle that would just provide them with perfection, that led them down the road of filing the paperwork without checking it and getting in trouble with the judge. A different way, a different mindset that you can take, which I think is the right way, it's the healthy strategy of using AI, is to view it as a helpful assistant. That's why the title Copilot is perfect for these kinds of applications, because the AI is really working as a copilot, kind of like R2-D2. It's there to help you win and be successful, but it's only there to help you, not to replace you. So if you have that kind of mindset, I think you'll do far better. Let's jump into some use cases about how you can use AI to succeed. The first one here I want to point out is actually using it to create a demand letter. So if you've ever done personal injury, you know that a demand letter takes some time to write. But here, if you provided some basic information about the types of damages, medical expenses, chiropractic expenses, and so on, it could actually craft very quickly, a pretty basic demand letter that if you've done personal injury, I understand what you're seeing right now is very basic. It's not going to be something that you just hit print and send to opposing counsel. That's not the idea. But remember, it's a helpful assistant. And one thing that I know that I've had assistants do or paralegals do is to create a skeleton, right? A beginning point so that we don't have to start with a blank page. And this functioning as a skeleton is actually a very good one because it hits all of the major points, provides us with analysis that is sufficient as to how we're arriving at the medical damages and the general damages that we're asking for, and puts it all together as a place to start. And so as a starting point, it's an excellent beginning. Another place where we face a blank page, which could be a little scary, is coming up with marketing material. If you're trying to get new clients, creating something like an ebook is extremely useful. It's a lead magnet that you can put on your website and get potential new clients from. I know I have trouble starting out, and so a blank page is a little scary. For this, you could actually ask it to create an outline of an ebook, in this case about probate administration, and it just plugs away, providing you with summaries of what each chapter would be about, and spits it out in less than a minute. Not too bad. But I also wrote this prompt so that if I'm satisfied with the outline, it'll take the next step and actually write out each chapter based upon the summary that it created. So there's this ability to expand the content from an outline to a more narrative form to full chapters to actually creating your entire ebook with one prompt and you just answering a few follow-up questions. How powerful is that? Another marketing type of task that I have trouble writing from scratch is an email sequence where somebody initially reaches out to you and they want to learn more. What do you tell them to get them down the road of booking a consultation? Well, in this one, it has to do with data security is the practice area. And you could tell you can tell that ChatGPT has been trained against a lot of marketing material because in the content, in the actual emails that it's writing, it kind of pushes um, it pushes psychological buttons, pressure points, like, you wouldn't want anything to happen to your data. It would be really terrible if there was to be a security hole in your system. Don't you want to consult with me to learn more so that you could avoid that? And if it ever happens, that you have somebody protecting you. So it does a really good job of writing that kind of sales copy. And just as with the prior example, within the course of about a couple of minutes, you already have here day 5, right? Where it's pushing people methodically, day by day, towards booking that consult with you so you could finally have that opportunity to close that potential new client and make them a real client. This one, I think, is a fantastic use case. Rarely, hopefully, we get a negative review, on Yelp or Avvo or some directory where people give us reviews and ratings. And the question is, how do we respond to it? If you're like me, your initial knee-jerk reaction is to want to defend yourself and say they got it wrong and, just kind of throw it back, because sometimes they do take it out of context or get it wrong. But as you can see here, it's a textbook perfect response. It's very diplomatic. Thank you so much for providing your feedback. We take your feedback seriously, and we're here to make things better and to make it right. And we're truly sorry for the distress that you've gone through. So without, getting difficult or aggressive or confrontational, it provides a very professional response. And it's kind of ironic, right? It's interesting that we're using, or we can use, AI in this example to give us the emotional distance that we need to be more professional. That as professionals, we can use AI to be better at what we do. And that's the point. So let's go down the road of general purpose AI tools. Let's see what the lay of the land is, what the real deal is about what's available. First off, we have ChatGPT that I showed you a few examples of, but it's also available now on your phone to speak with. And so it's an extremely helpful assistant that you can throw, ideas on. Like if you want to write an article about something, it could expand on that. If you want it to listen to someone else who may be speaking a different language and you want to understand them, it could translate it in real time and have you speak into it and converse with them. There's many different applications, but it's wonderful to have it in your pocket. ChatGPT, the real basic best features of ChatGPT is that it is conversational because it's been using human feedback to make it so much better. That's really what surprised us in November 2022, that ChatGPT had this almost human-like feel, and to have the ability for the first time to be able to speak with a machine was revolutionary and still is. It can cover a wide range of use cases. You can upload images and it could describe what's in the image. You could upload the image of a document that you're looking at and ask it to explain it to you. It can also help with coding and even creating images. So if you need a new image for a blog post or anything else, maybe for an exhibit for a trial, you could actually ask it to create images for you as well. You could also create custom GPTs, which is like ChatGPT, but you fine tune it on a specific set of facts. So it's an expert about those facts. For example, if you wanted it to provide updates to a client about what's going on with their case, you could feed the latest case notes into the chatbot and then have that client, instead of them calling up, what's going on with my case? What's going on with my case? And, that happens a lot. They could simply ask the chatbot and get an instant update. It's also the leading LLM. It came out with GPT-4, and that's been the leader. Although it is true that a lot of companies at this point have caught up with that level of technology. But but they're currently working on GPT-5, and who knows how quickly that'll come out and will be a game changer. Last thing is I would mention that they do have some ongoing privacy and accuracy concerns. There's hallucinations that happen when it's relying on its general knowledge that it's been trained on. And there's also, potential privacy concerns. This I want to point out for all of you. Just make sure that if you are working with ChatGPT, that you go into the settings, and this is even if you have a paid subscription, you still need to go in the settings and make sure that you turn off improve the model for everyone. And they're a little sneaky in the way they phrase it, improve the model for everyone, because who wants to be the bad guy that doesn't want to improve the model for everyone? But what they're really saying there is that if you turn that on, they're going to use your data to train on, and it might become public. So that's not good. As lawyers, we need to turn that off. Claude. Now, Claude actually has a bigger context window. A context window, one way to think of it is as the AI's attention span. Like, how many things can it keep in its mind at once? With GPT-4o, I believe 128,000 tokens, which is pretty good. It's a, good few hundred pages. But with 200,000, there's more that it could keep its mind on. And it's also, it has as its number one focus, ethical AI. So they care a lot about privacy and safeguarding your security. That's one thing that sets Claude apart from OpenAI's ChatGPT. They have great expertise in natural language processing. If you've been following the news, one of the founders of OpenAI just recently went over to work with Anthropic, which is the company behind Claude. Prompt engineering, if you're not a prompt engineering expert, well, they can help you to come up with better prompts. And prompts just, is that input that you put into the AI to ask it for something. It's much better to provide more information so that you can get a better output, get a better response from the AI. But they can help you with it at Claude. And by the way, there's Claude, Opus, Sonnet, Haiku, and Sonnet 3.5 is the latest. I prefer Opus, and I prefer Claude actually for writing, to do revisions or to actually come up with some ideas. It just, for me, has a much more human vibe to it, that it feels natural. ChatGPT, I find, tends to repeat some phrases quite a bit, like delve and others, that make it really noticeable that it is using AI. Claude also cares about bias and how it handles it. And a new feature that they just came out with, I believe it was yesterday, is called prompt caching. And so that's maybe a little beyond the scope of this, but what it means is that all of the information that you feed into it while you're working with it, it keeps it in its memory, and it doesn't take away from that attention span of 200,000 tokens that you normally use. So it gives you effectively a greater attention span from Claude. Microsoft Copilot. Now, it's mostly ChatGPT, but the difference is that you have seamless integration with Microsoft Office. So if you're already living in Microsoft Office or Office 365, well, now you have OpenAI's ChatGPT essentially connected to each and every one of those apps. So it could provide you assistance in context. You're working within Word, and then within Word, it could actually be giving you, suggestions of different takes on what you're writing. It could actually review it within the app and make corrections, and make it sometimes easier than having to find all of the different menu items where you can trace down a tool, but it might take some time. You could simply prompt Microsoft Copilot to help you out with that. So because of that, it enhances your productivity. And of course, it's enterprise ready because Microsoft works with, thousands of very large companies. So in terms of your data remaining private and security and compliance features, those are pretty much set. Also, it combines with their cloud services. So like if you wanted to connect with the files that you keep from your office that are uploaded to Microsoft Cloud, you could actually use those and bring them into Microsoft Copilot to analyze. So that's a nice differentiator as well. Google Gemini is kind of the same idea, but it hooks into all of the Google apps. Now, one huge differentiator for Google Gemini that I'll mention is that attention span that I mentioned before. Well, with Google Gemini, it's up to 2 million tokens. So Claude, if you remember, I said was 200,000 tokens. Gemini, 2 million tokens. Now we're talking books and books worth of information that it could keep in its attention and be able to provide you with analysis, summarization, and work through a much larger amount of data. An example for lawyers would be deposition transcripts. Maybe not just feed in one, but several, and then ask questions about what the witnesses are testifying to and whether or not there's actually any conflicts between what different witnesses are saying in each of their deposition transcripts. So a pretty powerful application there. I'd also point out that Google is the pioneer. Even though OpenAI has really been leading the race, Google is where it started. It was their scientists and researchers that came out with the paper, Attention is All You Need, which led to the Transformer revolution, which underpins the generative AI that we use nowadays. And so they really started this, and they still have extremely strong large language models. The model that underlies Gemini is multimodal from the ground up, which means that it natively works with images, with text, voice, and so you can feed into it images so that it could provide you with its own understanding of what's happening in the image, reading text within an image, and all of that is very seamless. Of course, it integrates with Google Apps or Google Workspace so that it can access each and every one of the different applications for drafting or for writing emails. And it's really convenient and accesses their vast database. Perplexity, I want to point out, it's a little different than the others in that it does use OpenAI's GPT-4o, I believe, but it's extremely good at doing basic factual research. So the others, right, you have this issue with hallucinations. Perplexity solves that by doing a web search in real time and combining it with GPT-4o, right? So having that real-time search combined with GPT-4o allows it to do an aggregation of what all the facts are and synthesize it in a way that is extremely useful. So that fast and concise response it could provide to you with a summary of what's happening right now that's AI-powered in a very user-friendly interface where you can keep past research and then you can access that and then go further down the road if you want to. And the fact that it does this and provides you with citations to where it got the material from is extremely useful. I do use it from time to time when I'm writing, because sometimes I'm writing about a specific area of knowledge. And what I used to do is essentially the same thing, but manually. I would go on to Google, I would run some searches to learn about different terms or learn about the latest research in a particular area. And then I would aggregate in my own mind what the interrelationships are, what the summary of the general overview is, and then put it all together. And then in my writing would express that. So what this does, what Perplexity allows you to do is to kind of jump ahead. It does a lot of that aggregation for you and synthesizes it together in a understandable way. So I really recommend it for doing research. Legal specific AI. So one point I want to make here that I really hope you take home, because it's a very important point, is that there's a big difference between general purpose AI on the one hand and legal specific AI on the other. So what's the difference? The difference is that when we fine-tune an AI model to be legal specific, it's built on top of the same technology, as ChatGPT, for example. But because it's built on top of that technology, you can build in several safeguards to make sure that the data remains private, to make sure that you get more accurate responses by using techniques like retrieval augmented generation and others. So legal specific AI, it is ready for prime time, and it is something that is useful right now. One example of that is Thomson Reuters CoCounsel. So it's an AI legal assistant that allows you to do a few things that you can see here, from reviewing a document, summarizing it, drafting contracts, but also it's really good at legal research. Because it's connected to Thomson Reuters now, it has not only access to case law, but secondary materials from Thomson Reuters that is vast. So when you ask it a legal question, it provides you the answer. It provides you the reasoning about how it got to that answer, but also the citations underlying that answer. And then you can page through and you can see all of the different sources and read them, first person if you want to, so that you can see where it comes from. It can also help you with deposition preparation, but here it's much more specific to legal. I believe that they've also trained it with respect to legal terminology, so it's more familiar with the way that we speak than just general speak on the general purpose AI. Also, it performs all of these legal tasks in one place, so it keeps it convenient. Another is my company's product called Copilot, LawDroid Copilot. And we've taken a bit of a Swiss Army knife approach where we have many different options. You could do basic case law research on it. You could summarize documents. You could analyze documents. You could even do a web search a la Perplexity and grab information off of the web, synthesize it, and make it into a very digestible format. It could help you to write emails and letters. You could brainstorm content. So like writing that ebook, this can help you do it, and much more. So it functions as an affordable alternative for solo, small, and medium firms because many of the options out there are very expensive. And it can do a lot of the same things like deposition preparation, the web research that I mentioned, legal research, and document summarization. The main thing to take away from this is that right now there is a proliferation of AI legal tools available. These are just two of them. And there's many, many more that I don't have the time to go into. But suffice it to say that if you have a need, if you have a bottleneck at your law firm, there's likely an AI legal assistant that can help you to do more with less, be more efficient and more profitable. So definitely check them out. Evolution. Things are evolving, as we know, almost on an hourly basis. It's really important to keep up to speed with what's going on. Of course, there's the AI Copilot approach with ChatGPT, Gemini, all of the others. The idea there is it's one-to-one. You're having to sit there in front of the computer, ask for something, then wait for it to give you a response, and then you ask in response. So it's a one-to-one synchronous relationship. You have to be there in real time. AI agents is the new thing that people are talking about this year. Since January, people have been abuzz with AI agents. What are AI agents? Well, they're different than copilots. Copilots, like I said, you have to be there one-on-one. An AI agent is different in that you give it a purpose, you give it a goal, you give it knowledge and tools that it could use on its own time. Like it could determine itself if it needs to use a tool or not without you having to tell it. And it uses those tools to accomplish the goal that you've set for it. So one example is just talking to potential new clients. You could have a chatbot that you've given a certain amount of knowledge, training, and the goal to convert them to a new client. And it can actively have conversations with people without you having to prompt it, without you having to script it to say what exactly. And it would go 24/7, 365 based on that. And using tools that you make available to it. Not that you tell it to use specifically, but that you make available to it. Like maybe you give it a tool so that it can schedule appointments for you. And so after the potential new client jumps through some hoops that they're qualified to schedule with you, you slot them in. Retrieval augmented generation is an evolution of AI where you train it on specific facts and it's become much more accurate. As you can see here, there's, ChatGPT, which is adequate prompts. When you learn how to prompt better, you get even better, getting more accurate information out. Retrieval augmented generation that I just showed you here makes it even better in terms of accuracy. And at the very top, one of the latest innovations is something called memory tuning, which can help you to get even more accurate responses from large language models. Lastly, let's talk about ethics, because with all of this whiz-bang good stuff that you could do with AI, it's still important and absolutely necessary as lawyers for us to be ethically compliant. And the three main rules that come up with the ABA as a guide here, of course, every jurisdiction has its own flavor of this, but competency is one. You have to remain competent, of course, about the area of law that you practice. But in addition to that, there's implied a requirement of being technically competent, technologically competent. With AI, with ChatGPT, with all of these new developments, in order for us to best represent our clients, we have to be familiar with this and keep up to speed about the latest developments so that we can provide professional guidance and advice to our clients. Secondly, confidentiality and privacy. Of course, that's an ongoing concern. And that's why I pointed out that with legal specific AI, the defaults are to keep your data private, to not train against it, to keep it confidential. Of course, that's of the utmost importance to any legal AI company. When you use ChatGPT or other general purpose AI, you have to make sure to check the settings, that it's switched off in terms of sharing your data. And I would point out that I noticed with ChatGPT, when they added a new feature, they defaulted back to sharing. So you need to be careful to go into settings and make sure that it hasn't switched back to sharing your data. So confidentiality is very important, but we do protect against any of those concerns with legal AI specific applications. Finally, professional judgment. That's not something we can give up with AI. In fact, we have to be just as vigilant with AI as we do with an assistant or paralegal. As lawyers, we stand behind the work product that we create, that we file with the court, that we give to our clients. And so we have to be cognizant of that work product, review it, and make sure that it reflects our best professional judgment. And just most recently, the ABA released Formal Opinion 512. And so this is something that actually deals with all of those different principles I just mentioned, but more specifically with respect to generative AI. And even if this is not your jurisdiction, if you practice internationally, I would still take a look at it because it is very informative about how ethics committees, state bars, or your own jurisdiction might be thinking about applying ethics principles to the use of generative AI. But suffice it to say, at the end of the day, we're lawyers, we're counselors, people rely on us for our professional judgment. And so as long as you remain in the loop to review that work product and make sure that it's your own, in your own voice, and that it reflects your intelligence, you'll be good. And that's also why people hire us, is to be their guide and to point them in the right direction so that they can avoid legal entanglements. And that's really what makes it worthwhile. And that's something that AI can't take away from us, is that human relationship that we have with clients. No matter how sophisticated it gets, people will still rely on us for peace of mind and our professional judgment. So with that, I would simply point out that if you do want to keep up to date, as is ethically required, with all the latest technological developments, I do have a Substack called LawDroid Manifesto, where you can reach it at lawdroidmanifesto.com. Different articles like this that come out weekly. And we have over 5,000 subscribers, and I'd be honored to have you as one of them. So check us out at lawdroidmanifesto.com. With that, I want to thank you so much, and I want to thank Law IT for the opportunity to speak with you all. Juan and Alex are really amazing in putting together these wonderful people that are well versed in this area of of development with AI, and I'm just really grateful to them for including me in it. So thank you very much. Take care.